Let's begin with WION's top story this hour, which comes in from Russia, as we're bringing you all the latest updates in Russia's opposition leader and top Kremlin critic Alexei Navalny's alleged poisoning case. We have been tracking this developing story for you very closely, and we can tell you as we speak that Navalny and his team have arrived at Berlin's Charité hospital after being airlifted from the Omsk airport earlier in the morning today. A medically equipped plane paid for by a German NGO called Cinema for Peace executed the transportation. The Germany NGO has said that Navalny remains in a stable condition but remains in coma. It is being hoped that medical facilities in Germany will be able to treat him better. This comes after the Siberian hospital agreed for Navalny's transportation from Omsk. It was a long battle for Navalny's team to get a green light from the hospital back in Omsk. Now, as the doctors earlier had deemed Navalny too unstable to travel, but allies of Navalny blamed Vladimir Putin for using the doctors as a scapegoat and simply using them to execute their political agendas. The German air ambulance waited for more than 17 hours, which had arrived on Friday, after which Navalny and his team was allowed to board the aircraft today. While a chief doctor announced the transportation grant, he also repeated his narrative of not finding any poison in Navalny's body. We cannot confirm or deny if Navalny was poisoned, as clashing reports still continue to emerge. The opposition leader's personal doctor and director of Navalny's Anti-Corruption Foundation have repeatedly said that tests show traces of poison in his body. Meanwhile, Germany has demanded complete clarification over Navalny's alleged poisoning. French President Emmanuel Macron and German Chancellor Angela Merkel are working very closely to provide medical assistance to the Kremlin critic. Now, France has even offered an asylum to Navalny.
Und das andere ist, dass hier ja ganz offensichtlich der schwere Verdacht einer Vergiftung im Raum steht. Und für uns als Bundesregierung ist klar, so hat es die Kanzlerin gestern auch schon, genau wie der französische Präsident, klar gefordert, die Umstände des Falles müssen vollständig und transparent aufgeklärt werden.
Let's now give you a little background to the alleged poisoning case. Just before boarding a flight from Omsk to Moscow, Navalny drank tea at a Siberian airport cafe. Reports suggest that the tea he drank was deliberately poisoned. As the flight took off, passengers heard Navalny moan in pain, following which he fell unconscious in the restroom. The aircraft made an emergency landing and Navalny was hospitalized in Omsk, where he stayed for a amount of 2 days. Let's quickly get in a sense of perspective and all the latest from our guest who's joining us live from Berlin. He's Daniel Dylan Burmer. He is a senior editor of Die Welt, one of Germany's leading news daily. A very warm welcome to you, Daniel. Thank you for joining our broadcast today. Now, let me begin by saying that Navalny has arrived in Berlin. What are you learning about his current condition, and should we now expect greater clarity on reports of alleged poisoning?
First of all, thanks for having me. I think we should not be too optimistic of getting the background of the story from the mouths of German doctors, because we've had such cases in the past. There have been Russian opposition figures, such as a few months back, the ex-partner of Pussy Riot member Nadia Tolokonikova, who were also found with signs of poisoning, were then brought to Germany for treatment, and it was not possible to trace any poison, just for the very fact of what we are seeing here again, that also in that case, the Russian authorities kept the patient from leaving the country for so many days that after coming to Germany, no more poison could be tracked. And it's also evident here in this case that the family of Alexei Navalny says that everything was ready medically and administratively to fly him out of the country yesterday morning, yet he was kept in Russia until now. And it's very likely to presume that this was done order to hide the traces.
All right, that's a very interesting point that you've made, and I even came across reports which, of course, mentioned that the report where Navalny has been that where Navalny is a hospital where he has been admitted is a hospital where previous dissidents from Russia have been treated. Now, having said that, Navalny has been targeted and attacked in the past too. Now that international assistance has been offered by Germany and France, what happens next? Is an investigation even possible?
I don't think so. I think the reason why Angela Merkel and Emmanuel Macron say that is because they want to highlight how dodgy and how shady the background of this story is. But I think both of them know that the likelihood of finding anything out on the real background of this event is very, very unlikely, because it's still Russian President Vladimir Putin who has the grip on power and the grip on the administration, and also the investigating units in Russia who would investigate that. So it's very, very unlikely that we'll ever find out the truth about this.
Right. Dylan, even though the Kremlin has denied that the resistance to Navalny's transfer is political, was it due to international pressure on Russian leadership that led to the reversal of this decision? What's your assessment?
Well, you could say that. I think it's really interesting to see how Russia is acting here, because Russia doesn't really make a big effort to hide that they have targeted a Russian opposition figure. They have done so in the past, and as now also the denials are kind of lukewarm, kind of routine, because the political effect they want to have with this kind of targeting is sparking fear among the opposition. So the effect is only there if it's known that he was targeted by the Russians. Letting him out and letting him go to Germany sort of gives you the plausible basis for telling diplomatic counterparts afterwards, well, but we did cooperate, didn't we? Otherwise, he wouldn't have been flown to Berlin. So Russia is very kind and nice. But that's part of that ambiguous game that Russia has been playing, frankly, for years now.
Believable enough. But Daniel, I know you are no seer, but what do you foresee as far as Navalny's fate is concerned, considering France has offered him assistance and they are offering him refuge as well? What do you foresee in terms of Navalny's fate?
Well, that's a question that's really hard to answer, because it's really depends on what he personally is ready to take, also physically ready to take, if he recovers at all. If you look at the list of attacks, even similar attacks, poison attacks that he has suffered in the last years, it's really breathtaking. And I can't tell you if he will be ready to go on leading this life of being constantly the target. Politically, I can tell you that I think it really doesn't help Russia's position in Europe. Germany has always been pretty critical of it, but maybe Macron's stance is even more interesting here, because Macron in the past few months and years has been trying to find a more cooperative course with Russia, a more cooperative relationship, and being so vocal about it and supporting this opposition figure so clearly might indicate that France is also have had enough.
All right, we'll actually have to wait and watch under the current circumstances how and what roles do actually Germany and France play in this scenario. For now, let's leave it at that. Thank you so much, Daniel, for joining us on this broadcast and sharing your precious inputs.